Okay, welcome everybody to the meeting of Cabinet on the 20th of May 2021. We'll go first to apologies for absence. Mr. Evans?
I have an apology from absence from Councillor Elliot King.
We also have apologies from Councillor Alison Pugh. Are there any other apologies? No? Okay, thank you. We'll move to disclosures of personal or prejudicial interest. Are there any disclosures to make? Councillor Rayner?
Thank you. Item 7, local authority governor appointments. I had permission from the Standards Committee to stay and speak but not vote. And item 20, the last item on the agenda, the reference to Alk for land. I'm a governor at the school, so I declare an interest and I will be leaving the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rayner. Any other declarations to make? No? Okay. We'll move on then to the minute.
Sorry,
yeah.
I was just wondering if I needed to declare an interest on the Alpha issue as my husband works at the school.
Tracy, can you advise?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
I would advise that you declare both a personal and prejudicial interest.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. If there aren't any others, we'll move then to the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 1 to 5. I've not been made aware of any corrections, so I'm happy to move those. Could I have a seconder for the minutes, please? Yeah, okay, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Announcements of Leader of Council. Just to say this morning, obviously, I wanted to congratulate the successful Senedd candidates and the 2 new councillors joining the local authority on their elections. I think both Matthew and Hannah will make an excellent addition to the council, and look forward to their first formal meeting this afternoon. Also, though, I would like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to both Councillor Jen Rayner and Councillor Clive Lloyd for their efforts as cabinet members. Later today, they will be taking the decision to leave cabinet, both for their individual reasons. And I just wanted to place on record the huge amount of work that both of those cabinet members have undertaken in their time on cabinet. Turning to Councillor Rayner first, obviously, Councillor Rayner has overseen a sustained period of improvement in education. She has been a force of nature, I think it's fair to say, in the education department and in cabinet. And it will be a very different place without Councillor Rayner. I think Councillor Rayner is often shy about shouting about her achievements, but I'm going to take the opportunity to fully reflect on those today. I know she is a full champion of children and young people, and made her number 1 aim to improve our standing in Swansea, starting from a often very difficult position. Councillor Rayner often reminds me as well that whilst we're doing really well in Swansea, we still have lots more to do to catch up with other parts of the UK and other parts of the world, and that is a message that will stay with me. But I think Councillor Rayner should also be extremely proud of the investment programme that she's overseen, the building of the biggest ever schools improvement programme, investment in classrooms and better facilities, as well as new schools across the county. So I think, Councillor Rayner, you leave education in a very much better position than you found it, and you should be rightly proud of your achievements. Turning to Councillor Lloyd, well, Councillor Lloyd has been in cabinet for a number of years, and not only taken up a number of cabinet posts which he discharged with distinction, but also obviously is an ex-deputy leader of the authority. And again, Councillor Lloyd has made a huge impact in every area that he's served in cabinet. More recently, of course, Councillor Lloyd has overseen the most difficult period ever for social care and ever for health in this country as we encountered the pandemic. His leadership in social care has been second to none, and he should be rightly proud of the way in which he, his officers and the teams supported vulnerable people in both our care homes and in communities throughout the pandemic. I don't think I could be prouder than anybody today, Clive, in terms of the way in which you've overseen that period of real challenge. So again, as I said to Councillor Rayner, you should be very, very proud of your achievements, very, very proud of the legacy you're leaving behind, and of everything you've achieved as cabinet member and as deputy leader in this council. So thank you both very much. And I know you will continue to be very active in your communities, and whilst you won't be on the cabinet making contributions in this meeting, you'll still be active members of the council and delivering for your community. So I wish you both very well, and thank you very much for everything that you've done. Okay, we will move now then to public question time. Are there any members of the public present who wish to ask any questions?
Nobody, Leader.
Nobody, okay. Are there any councillors present then who would wish to ask questions? Councillor Holly.
Thank you very much, Leader. Can I first of all go to the recovery plan? They say that flattery is repetition is the best form of flattery. Can I ask why there's no figure against the free school transport during the holidays for families? That's the first question. Yep. And also, there's another question on the Copper Bay temporary public realm. Was there a procurement plan for it, and is there a possibility of seeing a copy of how the procurement was carried out? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Councillor Holly. On your first point, obviously we're still working through the details of how the free transport initiative will operate, but I can confirm today at Cabinet that through the work that Councillor Mark Thomas, Kath Swain and the team have been doing, the offer won't just be to families, it will be an offer that we plan to make for everybody living in Swansea to enjoy periods of free travel once we're able to finalise the details of the scheme. But the costings won't be in there because, again, we have to agree with the operators, the operational arrangements around that, and until those are agreed, we won't have the final cost, but obviously we will share them once we do. In terms of your question on procurement, I assume that any large amount of contract award or any large spend has been through the formal process, but I will go back to the officers and get that information for you and share it with you, Councillor Holly.
Thank you very much, Leader. Can I say the initiative for transport is one which is incredibly welcomed, not just by should be incredibly welcomed by everybody on this council, but also for the fact of social inclusion and for the levelling up of facilities for people. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for the people of Swansea, and I congratulate everybody involved.
Thank you, Councillor Holly. If there are no further councillors' questions, then on this one, we'll move to item 7, which is local authority governor appointments. So, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Leader. You have the report. This month, there is just one name before you. And I'd like at this point to thank our legal officers, Stephen Holland and Stephanie Williams, one of whom at least is in attendance at these meetings. At the last meeting of the nomination awards meeting, there were a number of omissions, both in the application forms and on the returns coming back from schools, school governors, head governors, chair of governors rather, and head teachers. So those were returned. Thankfully, the last meeting, which was on Tuesday of this week, most of those have been resolved positively, and many thanks to the school and governor unit for chasing those up. So there is just one nomination today, which you have before you, and I'm happy to actually say this is a really good choice, so hope you will accept it.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. I'm very happy to second the report. Does anybody want to comment before we go out, or have any questions for Councillor Rayner before we go to the vote? If not, if I could ask Mr. Evans to launch the vote, please.
Yeah. It's just coming up. Here we are. Right. The vote has been launched. It should be with you imminently. Right. Has anybody not received the vote? Councillor Gibbard, do you want to vote verbally? You're on mute. Are you for, against or abstaining, Councillor Gibbard?
So it's come on now. Sorry, everything just sort of froze and I couldn't unmute, but I've voted now. Thank you.
Has anybody else not received the poll? No, you're all okay? Okay, I shall close the poll now. And the result is it's a positive vote, Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Okay, so that's carried. We'll move then to the next item, which is the Welsh Government Children's and Communities Grant Delivery Plan 21-22. I know Councillor King is still unwell and not able to be here. Councillor Gibbard, did you want to say anything in Councillor Pugh's absence, if that's okay?
Yes, thank you, Leader. Yeah, so it's a joint report from both Councillor King and then Councillor Pugh and myself. Yeah, so I'm very happy to bring this forward today for largely for awareness and understanding of the range of programmes that are going on. I'm very grateful to the officers, particularly Jane Whitmore, for their work bringing this report forward. As you can see, it emphasises that our focus is on early intervention. Paragraph 1.6 there outlines the 7 programmes that are then brought together into the delivery plan and aligned to our corporate priorities, of course, of safeguarding people from harm, improving education and skills, and of course tackling poverty. So it's given us the opportunity here to sort of flex between some of these projects, especially in our COVID response. And as we move out of the pandemic, it's these programs are going to be really important for our priorities in terms of tackling poverty and early years development. So all the detail is there, and so I'm happy to move. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibbard. I'm very happy to second the report. Does anybody have any questions or comments they wish to make? If not, then I will ask Mr. Evans to launch the vote, please.
Okay, thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. It should be with you any second. Okay, has anybody not received the poll? So you've all had an opportunity to vote?
I did receive it, Hugh, but it did take a little bit of time, so it may be slow coming back to you.
That's okay. Okay, I shall close the poll now. And I can see all 9 have voted for, Leader.
Okay, thank you very much. That's again carried. So thank you for that. We'll move to item 9, which is the Welsh Government Housing Support Grant Delivery Plan 21-22. It's a joint report for Councillor Lewis and Councillor Lloyd. So Councillor Lewis, did you want to lead on this one, or who's leading? Sorry.
I'll start off.
Sorry, Councillor Lloyd.
I'll move Leader, and Councillor Lewis will second. Yeah, listen, I was asked a question in scrutiny recently about whether our priorities in adult social services align with those with our colleagues in housing, and I think this report absolutely demonstrates how those priorities are aligned. And I'm really pleased to be bringing this report because never, Councillor Gibbard just highlighted it, we've got 2 reports in similar vein here, really, in terms of the children's report she just formally presented, and the Welsh Housing Support Grant, because never have we needed this type of support, this type of grant funding to help some of our most vulnerable adults and families around the city and county. And I think this report highlights that everything is coming together to make sure we give that our best possible opportunity to achieve better outcomes during the next few months after what has been a terrible 12 or 14 months. Importantly, it ensures also that it aligns, the money is being given to us by Welsh Government, but it aligns to their priorities as well. And I think that the document absolutely highlights that. So we're not working in isolation, but it does recognise that local councils are the best people to deliver the outcomes that both ourselves and Welsh Government are striving to achieve. The aims of the grant are highlighted in paragraph 1.5, Leader. But, you know, absolutely, it's about helping to house those homeless. And in Swansea, we've got a brilliant record of achieving, you know, reducing homelessness during the pandemic, but also young adults who found themselves in an institutional environment to get into a safe, decent living, independent accommodation. Importantly, the grant has been significantly uplifted this year to the tune of 18.5 million. And again, paragraph 2.2 highlights those agreed priorities. Paragraph 3.3 highlights how we intend to spend the money specifically on these in these key areas. But it also recognises it's not a grant we can deliver just between ourselves in adult social services and housing, and we will be reliant on a third sector and those providers with experience in these particular specific areas. But so it's a big effort from everyone really to increase the support and help those most vulnerable citizens. So I'm not going to say any more. I'm sure Councillor Lewis can expand on what the report is outlining. The recommendations are on page 79, Leader. So I'll move them and bring Councillor Lewis in to give her perspective.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you to Councillor Lloyd. I'd just like to echo his comments about the partnership working, particularly cross-departmental working between social services and housing, which has been hugely positive, and they've never worked closer on what is a critically important agenda. So the uplift of the grant was administered at quite short notice, and we had a very short turnaround in terms of the delivery plan and what we were going to spend the money on, and credit to the officers for putting together an excellent plan which actually bolsters, as Councillor Lloyd has said, the third sector partners in terms of the support that they deliver. This grant is very much about not just tackling homelessness and rapid rehousing, but about the prevention of homelessness and giving people support when they need support. So things like domestic violence, substance misuse, it looks and it focuses on, you know, the actual issues and the causes of homelessness, and tries to give support where it's needed, and especially at those critical points where people find themselves in an emergency situation. So credit to the partners. As Councillor Lloyd has said, this isn't just about social services and housing delivering on the ground. This is about us working together with the third sector very closely to tackle homelessness. We've had an excellent track record, it's fair to say, particularly throughout the pandemic. There's been some fantastic work on the ground, and this grant goes a long way to help support the continuation of that work and to help agencies that have been inundated, it's fair to say, and we don't see that issue going away anytime soon, particularly post-pandemic. We're anticipating that there's going to be a huge increase in homelessness. So there's never been a more important time to have more extra resource and more funding to help us tackle that. So a huge welcome. Thanks to Welsh Government for giving us the money, and my thanks to all the officers involved for helping to make sure that we target those critical areas. I'm happy to take questions. I'm very proud to second it.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis, and thank you both. I think absolutely agree with all of the comments. I think Swansea can be rightly proud of the role it's playing in trying to eradicate and tackle homelessness and support people to find homes again, to find security again, and to restore their lives. And you know, I'm still struck by the amount of people on social media who don't understand the story or don't know the story that's here in Swansea, and how much is being done to make sure that people don't need to be homeless. And I think that's the message here, is that, you know, we have the Always a Bed initiative. We've rolled out additional efforts during the pandemic, as well, as you've said, with the assistance of Welsh Government. And, you know, whilst you know, there are occasions when people become homeless or choose to make themselves homeless, that nobody needs to be homeless in Swansea, because there are the support mechanisms there, and there are the structures there to help people to find a home or a safe place to stay. So we should be very proud of that, and obviously very grateful to both of you and your teams for all the effort that you're continuing to make on this really important topic. Okay, so the report has been moved and seconded. Does anybody else wish to come in, or is there anybody got any questions or comments for Councillor Lewis or Councillor Lloyd? If not, the vote has just been launched, so if you could cast your vote, please.
Again, has anybody not received the poll? You've all had an opportunity to vote. Excellent. I shall close the poll now. And again, we can see that's unanimous, Leader.
Great, thank you all very much. So that again is carried. We'll move on then to item 10, Copper Bay St David's Public Realm, Temporary Public Realm, sorry. Councillor Francis Davis.
Thank you, Leader. Goes without saying, I know all the Cabinet are very familiar with this programme that we're on here, previously known as Swansea Central Phase 1, now known by the name of Copper Bay. I'd like to thank, before we start, Emma Dakin for the report, and also the work put in by Finance Officer Geoffrey Dong and Legal Officer Debbie Smith and Access to Services Rhian Miller. You see in paragraph 1 the introduction and the background. 1.2 shows decisions that have already been made on this, going from 2016, 17, June 2017, etc. Right away through. We've already passed the FPR 7 report, and we have seen the demolition, as it shows in 1.4, of units 1 to 7 of the St David's units. We will see between September, December, the St David's multi-storey car park disappearing, and at least we Sant. As part of the planning permission, we need to put in temporary and emphasize the word temporary, and I'm sure once it's put in, the people of Swansea will be wanting to keep it, but it is temporary. The standard will not be up to the standard that we normally put in when it's permanent, but it will look very attractive because it was part of the planning requirement that we make it safe, and accessibility is important. So you can see in paragraph 2 that the treatment of the St David's site post-demolition and pre-development, it's all highlighted in that. And paragraph 3 is the proposed temporary public realm. So it's wayfinding. There will be porta cabins put in for food and beverage. There will also be a community porta cabin put up there, where we can also have an educational cabin, porta cabin, where people can actually use it for educational purposes. We can use it ourselves for talking to the community there. And also there will be a cycle rack and greening. The biodiversity, and the report has disappeared off my iPad as I talk to you, but I will find it again here now. But it is extremely important that we have the temporary public realm. It's good to make it safe, accessible, as I said, promote vibrancy as shown in paragraph 3, and activities in the central area, and to deliver a cost-effective, appropriate to its interim nature. We will maximise the reuse of the surfaces and infrastructure to minimise the cost, as is shown in 3.1, and enable reuse and relocation of the installations once development on the site commences. So there will be, as I've said, wayfinding and desire path lines accompanied by appropriate lighting, multi-age freestanding play equipment, power and water connections in strategic locations for the mobile units, and the pop-up use. And the pop-up use, I think, is very important. It'll give people the opportunity to trade there. It will be pop-up, it will be temporary, and we would hope to see those budding entrepreneurs move into more permanent shops within our community. There will be amenity and meadow grassland and soft landscaping grading to show the different level changes. So on paragraph 4 shows the temporary recreational use, as we're all calling it, the parklet. And then we go on to paragraph 4.5 shows the urban greening and green infrastructure, the education, as I referred to earlier, and containers for food, beverage, startup businesses. I touched on the community container and outside social space that people can enjoy, where they can enjoy the purchases from the temporary food and beverage. The cycle storage will have green roof and habitat structure. And I think this all goes in line with our greening of our city, and we are making very good progress there. Paragraph 5 shows the integrated assessment implications, and then we go on to the financial implications on paragraph 6. So, Leader, I have great pleasure in moving this forward. It will be there for a period of some 2 to 5 years. I'm hoping, and I'm sure you are hoping, the way you keep driving it, will be there for as short a period as possible. As I said, we did think of hoardings at one time to go through the site, but this is not good for a city centre having hoardings. It doesn't make it safe. And so a pleasant environment where people will want to come along and have those vision lines coming down through the St. David's, the old St. David's Centre through Copper Bay, using the new bridge over to the arena and joining up the city to the Maritime Quarter. So great pleasure in moving, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Francis Davies. And again, thank you for bringing the report. Very happy to second. And as you say, I think the key word in all of this report is that this is a temporary installation. It is not a permanent installation. And as you said, the aim will be, as soon as we're able to, for us to move forward with the creation and the construction of the new public sector hub. Now, again, I can report that we did have conversations yesterday with UK government on this, and we are confident of moving forward on the hub with both UK and Welsh governments, and that will bring thousands of jobs to the city. But as you quite rightly said, in the meantime, it's important that given that this space will be an offboarding point for people visiting the new arena when it's open, it's important that that space is pleasant and well kept for the period between demolition and construction of the new public sector hub. So very, very supportive of the report, Councillor Francis Davies, and I think it's an excellent piece of work. But I do have the same view as you. I think we do have a risk of people loving the new temporary spaces being created, but what will be there longer term will be even better than the temporary space, and I think that's the message to people as we develop further. Okay, so are there any questions or comments for Councillor Francis Davies on the report? If not, then Mr. Evans, if you can launch the vote again, please. It's been moved and seconded.
Okay, the vote has been launched. Okay, has anybody not received the poll? Have you all had an opportunity to vote? Yes. Okay, I shall close the poll now. And again, I can see that's unanimous, Leader.
Okay, thank you very much. So that is again carried. We'll move then to the Highways Refurbishment Grant 21-22. Councillor Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Happy to bring this report. On the 18th of March this year, Cabinet approved capital expenditure on our highways programme of £5.418 million. Subsequently, shortly after that, I think it was the 23rd of March, Welsh Government then gave us grant funding of £1.191 million. That brings the total up to just over £6.6 million for our capital expenditure on resurfacing this year. That's obviously to be welcomed, greatly needed for our highways resurfacing programme. it'll be added to our 5-year programme, and what it'll enable us to do is bring forward some of the works that's already in the programme, which is good news, but also add additional programmes of work to that programme as they come in. I want to take this opportunity, as I'm here at this moment, to remind Cabinet and the wider public as well that I'm so proud of our highways teams and partners, because one thing that hasn't been impacted or affected throughout the pandemic is our resurfacing programme. We have absolutely taken on board the social distancing elements of the programme of works, and we've had to change and alter where some of the schemes have been carried out. So we've had to jiggle the programme a bit, but the amount of work we've carried out is probably in excess of what we would normally do in any other year. But it's just been we've tried to keep in the early stages of lockdown to keep away from high density areas and go out to more rural areas, but that hasn't affected the overall programme. We've just moved things around, and it was that was a far better alternative to switch things than to delay things. Okay, so we've carried on. Hats off to all involved with our highways team for doing that, and it's been done at a pace. So I'm very happy to move this report for this extra expenditure awarded by Welsh Government, Chair.
Right, thank you, Councillor Thomas, and again, very happy to second this report, and I'd agree with your comments there. I think the amount of work that's been done despite the pandemic to improve and maintain our roads is remarkable. Again, compliment to yourself and to the team in terms of the way in which you've turned around the ability to roll out further schemes very quickly. And as you'll be aware, obviously, we've also, on top of the Welsh Government assistance, made our own additional contributions in terms of the patch team work, which you announced recently, making sure that not just potholes, but minor repairs and major repairs and improvements can be done at speed and pace across the community. So very well done on that. I open it up. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Councillor Thomas? If not, again, Mr. Evans, could we go to the vote, please?
The vote has been launched. It should be with you any moment. Has anybody not received the poll? Have you all had the opportunity to vote? Yes, I shall close the poll now. And I can see that again, that is unanimous, all 9 voting for, Leader.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Evans. That's carried. Move on then to item 12, which is the update on the young children and young people's rights scheme. Councillor King, as I said earlier, is not able to join us today. I'm happy to take contributions from other cabinet members, but I'll do the formal introduction in lieu of Councillor King being here. Councillor Lloyd, if you wish to move the report, I'm quite happy to cede to you.
I think I'm happy to move it for Councillor King briefly.
Okay,
Leader, if I want to, and Councillor, I can see Councillor Rayner will come in as well. Listen, I'll move, like I said, move the report in Councillor King's absence, but I just really want to reflect on, this is a hugely important report at any time, but it's hugely important, particularly this year, given the experiences of our young people, young adults in Swansea through the coronavirus crisis and all the things that they've had to deal with. And the impact that of coming out of COVID. But the history, don't we? We were one of the first, if not the first, council in the UK to adopt the UNCRC back in 2014, and this is the 4th annual report which highlighted after following the implementation of UNCRC, how we embed the charter in the policy of the council and make sure it's everyone's business and everyone is conscious of putting the policies forward first as last. one point I really want to pick out, and a huge contribution to officers this year is, as I say, how difficult it's been to to do what we would consider the normal sort of engagement processes. Historically, we've carried out things like the big conversation and those sorts of types of events, but obviously they haven't been able to be organised in the same way as they've been previously. So it's a huge credit to officers, Jane Whitmore, the teams, and everyone involved in pulling this together, for the flexibility, the new ideas, and the different ways now that we found to engage with young people and young adults during the coronavirus crisis, to come out with the report as it's presented. So with all those sort of barriers and all those sorts of issues, we've still managed to produce a really excellent update report. Paragraph 1.4 shows us that it, again, as I've said previously in other reports, that it aligns to Welsh Government policy in terms of the right way. And paragraph 2 highlights in more detail that the progress that has been made over the last 12 months. As I said, engagement has been really important. We've got some new ways of carrying that out as we go forward. Appendix 2 goes into that in more detail. What has been learned through the pandemic, as I say, the different forms of engagement, but importantly is not only just saying that, there are the examples are there for everyone to see of that engagement and the effectiveness and inclusiveness of those methods of engagement going forward. This is all about co-production, isn't it? It's not about us or officers telling young people what they should be, what we think they should be wanting. It's about young people telling us how they want to be treated and how they want things to be delivered. And, that's really important. And going forward, you'll see in the recommendation that there's an ongoing co-production and listening strategy will be carried out with our young people. We produce lots of documents, lots of large documents, which scare me most of the time. So for young people, it's important that we get we're able to articulate what we're trying to do in an easy, simple way. And the plan on the page, which has been developed as part of this process, gives that sort of insight, a quick, sharp accessibility about what we're trying to achieve. And again, that's going to be go up for consultation to various groups and stakeholders. So that's all I wanted to say, Leader. I think it's a tribute to officers that we've been able to do this in the way that we have over the last 12 months. So credit to Jane Whitmore, her team, and everyone else that's been involved in it. Recommendations are on page 311, Leader. So I'm happy to report in Councillor King's absence, and I think Councillor Rayner will second.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Lloyd. Councillor Rayner, just a second.
Thank you. I would like to say some things on this paper. Very few areas of the council are actually isolated within one portfolio. And I'd really like to thank Councillor King, who, although has been off temporarily ill, has been a great help in trying to unpack some of the issues over the past year. Addressing the recommendations, I would observe that the plan on a page, I hope it's developed. It's very similar, if not identical, to the Children and Young People's National Participation Standards that have been in operation for several years now, and it's good that we catch up. As Councillor Lloyd said, we were an early adopter of the UN regulations, and when we did that, we were supposed to be monitored by the All Wales Observatory, but that seems to have fallen by the wayside. And our own particular scheme has developed based on the big conversation, which for many young people and children has been a very enjoyable experience. But no schools and not cabinet, we haven't had any feedback from that. And yet we are supposed to be able to illustrate how young people have influenced our decisions and in some cases altered our decisions. So I look forward to more work on greater communication. I would say that for the older age group, flying under the banner of Dilly the Dragon has not been the best way of promoting votes for 16 and 17-year-olds. We do need to look at this in a a whole children and young people's perspective. We have had a lot of good work with primary schools, secondary schools, and the older age group have not been as engaged as the younger people. And also, we don't have any feedback on which schools are actually engaging fully in the big conversations, how pupils are selected. Is it just whoever's spare at the moment, which teaching assistants are going with them? We need a little bit more understanding of what's going on. And then I certainly would agree with recommendation 4. We need a formalised structure. And I have already forwarded to the Chief Executive and briefly discussed with the leader the implications for us of the anticipated Estin inspection possibly coming up in the autumn term. Before they start inspecting us and our authority, they want to be put in touch with young people's and children's organisations. And we're a bit stuck there because we have not followed the same pattern of integrating all our schools, all our young people, in a more formalised structure, a youth council. You will have noticed that Carmarthenshire next door has won a prize, All Wales prize. In fact, it's going forward for a European prize. Their youth service has developed a really coherent structure for the integration of all the young people aged 11 through to 18 within that county. When I was up in Manchester, because it's no use saying this is a Welsh issue, it's a UN, it's a worldwide scheme. First door I saw on entering the town hall was the Youth Council office. They were integrated into the system. They had their own staff. So going forward in the coming year, I'd really like to see more feedback and also details about the budget. I'm a bit disappointed that already there has been briefings against the idea of more formal structure based on, oh, something dreadful happened 10 years ago. Okay, well, what was that? No one can remember? Oh, well, there was something not very good 5 years ago. What was that? No one can quite remember. But many of us can remember really good schemes set up by Lindsay Harvey, supported by the head of Harvard School, with the support of the Children's Commissioner, which went round all the sixth forms, taking the mobile cabinet of iPads, which at the time was quite revolutionary, and including pupils from the PRU and Step Ahead. So I'm just welcome this report, but I think if we are going to look at extending the structures, possibly formalised, as in recommendation 4, the group that's been working on this might need a little bit of outside help from not only just this council, but from across Wales as a total institution. Because we have young people who are members of the Youth Parliament, meet in Cardiff. They have regular meetings with the First Minister. How is that linked with our children's rights scheme? There are some gaps in this, and I welcome the report and I'm happy to second it, but I will be looking with great interest at how this evolves, because I would hate us to go the way of some of our partners in Erin, who on facing Estin inspection missed out on this particular area of work, which unfortunately comes under Estin's remit. So happy to support this, but there are some places we need to go and we need to go fast. So happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. And I know you've made those representations before, and I'm sure if you were remaining as Cabinet Member for Education, it would be one of your focuses, and I'm sure it will be a focus for your successor. It's one of the things I think, as you say, that perhaps we need to engage more with the schools to understand how the links through the schools and through to education can be improved for the benefit of us understanding and hearing the voices more of children. I think when the UNCRC was first introduced in Swansea, obviously it was groundbreaking. I'm still very proud of the fact that we moved first on that. And I am aware of the position in Carmarthenshire, which we have been looking at. and I know you will be aware that there is already a draft report coming, which looks at how we can look at the formal structures that could support better voices, especially from older children, in terms of a youth parliament or a youth council. But obviously those have to go through the formal approvals processes before they come to Cabinet. But I am sure that a report will make its way to Cabinet in the near future. So that is there. So, okay, thank you, Councillor Rayner and Councillor Lloyd. We'll now go out. Are there any further comments or questions? If not, I'll ask Mr. Evans again to launch the vote, please.
Okay, thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. It should be with you now. Has anybody not received the poll? Have you all had the opportunity to vote? Okay, I shall close the poll now. And I can see again that's unanimous, all 9 having voted for, Leader.
Thank you very much. All that's carried. So we'll move to agenda item 13, which is the progress report on the South West Wales Corporate Joint Committees. Very snappy report, snappy title. As you'll know, prior to the elections, the Welsh Government had set out its plans for new structures across Wales. Members will recall that the previous local government minister some years ago had talked quite openly about reorganisation, but then when the previous to the election minister, Councillor Julie James, came into post, obviously the focus changed to how we could collaborate more in terms of making sure that we had structures that allowed that to happen. Obviously, the bill that was then published introduced a number of new ideas, which are now obviously law and adopted. And these look at shared functions across footprints in several regions across Wales. They cover strategic development and planning, regional transport planning, economic well-being, and obviously we've still got in place structures like ERU, as Councillor Rayner referred to, which we are in the process of reforming, as well as our health and social care partnerships. So I think there are opportunities for all councils in this new plan. And I think the important thing with the CJCs is that it places the power in the hands of the local authorities to determine the structures and collaborations that are best suited to them. So whilst there is an obligation and a mandation to collaborate, and this has been obviously something that has attracted a lot of debate across the WLGA, it is up to local authorities to determine how they collaborate and with whom. So on that basis, we have been very clear that the preference for us in terms of collaboration remains the City Deal footprint, working closely with our neighbours in Neath Talbot, Carmarthenshire and Pembrokeshire. And whilst not everybody will potentially participate in every element of the CJCs, certainly that is the collaborative footprint that we would seek to go forward on. So the report gives an update in terms of where we are with that. You've got 4 recommendations there which highlight the work that has been done, and also delegating authority to the Chief Executive and the Leader to progress the furtherment of the discussions around the CJCs. We've set ourselves, in terms of the regional leaders, we've set ourselves a target of getting on with the work as quickly as possible. We have secured some funding from Welsh Government to support the work to create the new structures. And subject obviously to the report today and to meetings which are due to take place in the coming weeks, that work will begin in earnest. So it's just for me then to say thank you to the legal officers, the chief executives and other officers who've worked on this report, and Mr. Martin Nichols, obviously, who's done a huge amount to bring some of the CJC structure reports together. So with that, I'm quite happy to move the report and happy to take any questions. Councillor Thomas.
Yes, Jess, I'm more than happy to second the report. I want to reflect on just on the formalisation of this. As Transport Cabinet member with responsibility for transport for Swansea for a number of years, and Councillor Hopkins before me, we have collaborated and worked in collaboration on the transport element of this, with those neighbouring authorities for many, many years. Prior to 2012, I think there was the organisation called Switch, which carried out that function. Then that was disbanded, but we maintained that voluntary and an official, if you like, collaboration where we meet quarterly with cabinet members across the 4 authorities. But that has been basically a idea sharing exercise and collaboration, but without any political or any power or authority to make the changes that could be reflected positively in the region. I think this move forward now gives it more clout, for want of a better word. It formalises it and it gives it authority to make improvements and changes in collaboration. And I anticipate, certainly from the transport element of this, is that being something that is going to benefit the region, the whole region going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas, and again, I'd agree with that, and I think the opportunities here as we progress the plans for the South West Wales Metro, the establishment of formal working arrangements on this basis, on that footprint, will certainly aid the delivery of the new metro infrastructure once we're able to secure that from both governments. So very much agree with that. Are there any other comments? Councillor Rayner?
Thank you, Leader. Can I congratulate the work you have been doing and also the Chief Executive on bringing this forward? Like Councillor Thomas, I feel this move towards the corporate joint committees will actually move forward a lot of the business which has been in a bit of state of dither at the present time. I'm thinking of ERU, a regional collaboration on school improvement, and the regional skills and learning partnerships, which have been on very impractical footprints and often leading to discussions very much based on regional variations, which have held up making real progress for many of our young people and people who need to upskill. So welcome this report. I think it will be a key driver in bringing together many of the ideas and activities which have been factionalized out into different bodies over a period of time. And I think this is an excellent way forward for effective regional collaboration and improvement. So thank you to the Chief Executive and to yourself.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. I do agree. I think there is a real opportunity within all of these changes to shape the future and to deal with those anomalies, as you say, because it has been from the time of the Williams report a very disjointed set of structures that we've had to deal with in Wales, and I think alignment and refinement of those structures is something to be welcomed. Okay, thank you all for your comments. If we move then to the vote, and Mr. Evans, it's been seconded and sorry, moved and seconded. So if you could launch the vote, please.
Yeah, the poll has been launched, Leader. Has anybody not received the poll? Have you all had the opportunity to vote? I shall close the poll now. And I can see, again, Leader, that is unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much. We move then to the next item, which is item 14, which is the Swansea Economic Recovery Action Plan. This report, very pleased to be able to bring this report, and I'm sure Cabinet members will want to comment on some of the items within it. The Economic Action Plan sets up, and the report asks us to confirm the allocation of £20 million from the Council's finances, which Mr. Smith and myself will be bringing the final numbers on to the next Cabinet meeting. But Mr. Smith has already been able to confirm that there is sufficient headroom in the end of your report for us to allocate a £20 million sum. This sum is a local fund which will be used to support economic recovery as we emerge from COVID. It will be focused on supporting communities supporting businesses and supporting people to recover after they have been through the challenges of the pandemic. At the present time, Swansea, like every other city and locality around the UK and probably around the world, is struggling to come to terms with the new ways of working and the new reality that the pandemic has laid before us. But as has been said independently on a number of occasions, and if you'd have been into some of the recent public meetings, you will have heard some of our strategic partners and advisors saying that Swansea is incredibly well placed to benefit as we come out of recovery. Swansea independent reports have acknowledged that Swansea will lead Wales's jobs recovery this year, and will also be second or third largest growth in terms of UK cities as we emerge from the pandemic. That's a great place to be, but it didn't happen by accident. It is because we already had an overwhelmingly positive and ambitious regeneration plan in place for Swansea before COVID hit. At present, there is over £1 billion worth of projects and investment taking place across Swansea. I mentioned earlier in conversation, obviously with reference in the work Councillor Rayner had done, we have the largest ever schools building programme that we've ever seen. That's £150 million of investment going in across the schools and school buildings in Swansea. That means local trades, local businesses, local individuals being employed to do the work on those improvements, as well as obviously delivering better schools for our children. So there's a direct economic benefit there. And I know through the work that's been done in terms of the procurements that the majority of that spend is staying local, overwhelmingly so. So it stays within Swansea, it stays within Swansea households, and Swansea people benefit. Outside of that, in the Recovery Fund, we've already started to make announcements around what priorities that Recovery Fund could support. Councillor Francis Davis and Councillor Hopkins and Councillor Thomas have led on the support for hospitality businesses, working together across departments to make sure that hospitality businesses during the pandemic were able to expand into outdoor space. That has meant that as businesses reopened, even though they couldn't open inside, they had a viable way of opening and again starting their commercial activities. It's a very different picture in Swansea to many other areas of Wales where they haven't taken that step, where they've chosen instead perhaps to set up temporary facilities in large streets in other areas. So, you know, we chose a different way, and we've chosen, I think, a much more sustainable way for businesses to succeed as we come out of the pandemic. And of course, if you've walked through the city centre or through the marina or other areas recently, you will have seen hundreds of people enjoying those new outdoor spaces in the cold weather, in the rainy weather, but still enjoying. But of course, those businesses will have that investment and the benefit of that for many, many years to come. Now, we plan to do exactly the same, and Councillor Francis Davis and Councillor Hopkins and Councillor Stevens have already announced investment being made available to businesses other than hospitality, so our retailers, our local shops and businesses who've been there for all of us throughout the pandemic, making sure that they get investment in their shop frontages to help and encourage people to shop local. In addition to that, Councillor Thomas and Councillor Stevens are looking at schemes improving the public realm in many of our outlying areas, again, to make it attractive and safe for people to shop and visit those areas. Other announcements that have already been made about the fund include Councillor Francis Davis's announcement in terms of the removal of fees for the use of our parks, public spaces, ensuring that the thousands of young people who take part in sports across our city and county every week can do so now without charge. Indeed, it goes further than that, meaning that any business who now wants to use our parks for exercise and for running exercise classes can do so. Obviously, our parks will still remain chargeable for those large entertainment events, as is right, but for everything else, largely they remain free. So that is a very, very positive initiative, not only for health and well-being, but assisting those clubs that have been suffering during COVID in terms of our local sports and athletic clubs. In addition, as I referenced in my response to Councillor Holly earlier, been working with Councillor Thomas and the team in terms of getting the right offer for our free travel. But as I said, we can confirm that the free travel announcement will mean free travel on certain days for everyone in Swansea, not just families, not just people of a certain age, but for everybody to take the opportunity to go out to our city centres or our local centres and shop, or to visit our fantastic beaches or tourist attractions and support businesses there and have a wonderful day out. So again, a very, very good initiative, as Councillor Holly referenced, making sure that people do not face a barrier to travelling, because there are still families in Swansea who've never had the opportunity to visit our beaches. And again, I hope the initiative that we'll be bringing forward with the detail in a few weeks' time will allow people to do that. I would just like to say that is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the recovery plan. There are further major announcements to be made. I am in conversation with ward members across Swansea at the moment. I met with Councillor Holly and his colleagues in Cwmbwla yesterday to talk about what local priorities would be for each member. And as we've said consistently now, every ward in Swansea, every community in Swansea will have the opportunity to benefit from the recovery fund. And, you know, this will be our deliberate and intentful aim to support communities, individuals and businesses as we emerge from COVID, playing our part and trying to fill some of the gaps that are left by the national government schemes. So again, you know, we're here for Swansea, which has been our motto throughout the pandemic, and we will continue to be here for Swansea throughout the recovery. So I formally move. I would ask, does any cabinet member want to come in and comment, or does anybody want to, could somebody formally second, please? Councillor Thomas?
Yes, I'm happy to second the report, Chair, but also, yes, to add to, I mean, obviously, you've touched on some of the initiatives within my portfolio. The patch programme, as you mentioned, I think, in one of your responses earlier, that's not quite finalised, but all councillors will be getting information on that in the coming days. As you said, the transport initiative on free travel, there's detailed third parties involved in that, so we have to work with operators and that, so that will take a bit of ironing out, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll be in a position to announce that. There are many initiatives that we are working on across my portfolio within the cleansing department. As we're all aware, there have been issues around our beaches and parks and cleansing issues. We're looking to reinforce and strengthen that, because this isn't just about economic recovery, it's about well-being recovery and helping our communities and improve their outlook and, you know, well-being as well. So we know that bins and litter and those are constant issues for people to deal with, and we're looking to, you know, improve and expand that service. We're looking again to expand our services in drain maintenance and cleaning gullies, etc. More detail of that will be followed. So there's a lot of technical detailing working that out. And I said, I moved the report earlier about extra investment into our highways. So there are lots of things to come within my portfolio, and I know with other cabinet members as well. So it's just at this moment in time, a lot of these initiatives, we haven't quite ironed out the fine detail of them. But, you know, people of Swansea can rest assured that we know what the issues that concern them. We know what is needed within the communities and within Swansea itself. And we are working on that. And I think that people, it's going to be something to look forward to for the rest of, you know, this year and in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Francis Davis.
Yeah, I think this is a tremendous scheme to get Swansea businesses back up and running. The scheme that we put in earlier in the year, in the middle of the pandemic, to enable people to trade outside, well, I think was an exemplar that Welsh Government picked up on. We were the only authority in Wales to give this, and over 200 applications from businesses where we threw them that lifeline to be able to trade outside. And I think we've learned a lot from it. Of people have actually enjoyed sitting outside and enjoying, well, the weather hasn't been the greatest, but perhaps that can go in the recovery fund as well. How can we guarantee, you know, everybody tells me about the global warming, but it's been much colder this year than it was last year. But we are getting people enjoying outside, and I think that is something that will remain in the future because people do enjoy it. It's good for our tourism industry to get people supported, and I note that we have that in the recovery fund, how we can help those tourist industry recover as quickly as possible. So you are being tenacious and demanding of all of us as cabinet members. We've all responded, working as a team. There's never been better team working across all the portfolio areas to ensure that we are here for Swansea and that working together is much better. The health and well-being for our young people, and perhaps not so young as well. It's great to see our promenade and our beaches, the amount of people that are taking up exercises, the more people that are cycling around. And I know that Councillor Rayner has been, I don't think there's any play area she hasn't visited on her bike as of late, and making sure that if there's any deficit somewhere, she's quickly emailing to say this needs improving or that needs improving. And that is the way we are working together. So I think more of this is needed, and this recovery fund will be very well received.
Thank you, Councillor Francis Davis. Councillor Rayner next.
Thank you. Yes, I really welcome some of the work that's been done so far. Personally, I have to say, I really like it, the way nearly all of our parks have now got pop-up coffee bars, small places in them with additional seating for people to enjoy, increasing the use of our parks for all ages. Yesterday, I noticed even over at the Lucker foreshore, there was a pop-up there, which has come as a bit of a surprise to some people, but it was being really well used. What I would like to address here is the positive way of moving forward with putting in some extra business support. And I'll mention in particular the local food coordinator. The leader's already mentioned the stimulus that the education budget via its school building programme can give to the construction industry. There's one area which we need to work on, and we need some assistance here. We spend a lot of money on food in schools. Many of the present procurement rules suggest and make it easier for us to go to the big suppliers. That's difficult then for local people to become engaged. So we need to share the knowledge. How many tons of potatoes? How many lettuces? How many cabbages? What are you growing? These are the things we need to move from sort of Marie Antoinette farming to really good local production of food to be used in local schools, hardly any food miles, good quality. People can go and visit and can ask the questions about pesticides, herbicides, etc. But we need that conversation with the producers, because growing food is risky. What if the crop fails? What's our standback position? We can't just say to the number of children sitting in the canteen, sorry, the food didn't work this year. We'll have to go back to, and I remember some of my childhood school meals, which were a nightmare. We really need to work very closely with suppliers, supporting them, but also assisting them when they have to plan for what will be failures through no fault of their own. It will be the weather or an overnight visit by a load of moths, with the caterpillars just leaving you with stalks, nothing on them. So yeah, really looking forward to having the right business support going in to the right areas so that we can do a lot more locally and increase the health and well-being and the economic life of the local people in Swansea. So really looking forward to seeing this come to fruition. It won't happen overnight, but I think it is a good short-term, medium-term and long-term plan. So congratulations to everyone who's put it together.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner, and I think you make a very valid point, because we've raised that point formally in terms of procurement arrangements and procurement law. In that, yes, Welsh Government and UK Government actually have a policy of trying to buy centrally for a lot of things, but of course that runs against the localism agenda, so there does need to be acceptance of that. But that we are making good progress on that. I know in terms of our procurement, we have built in localism as part of one of the measures in terms of how we try and assess bids and their local impact. I think the other thing, of course, is schools are directly and school children are directly benefiting this year because of the freeze that we put in place in terms of school meals. So again, that's direct help to families who may be struggling because either their hours have been cut during lockdown or because they've lost their jobs. So again, direct help going through our school system there to help reduce the cost of school meals. And well done to you for getting Marie Antoinette into a cabinet meeting. I never thought I'd hear that, but well done. Okay, on to Councillor Hopkin.
How can I follow that, Leader? Could I just say, from my point of view, I think there's lessons learned. Early on in this pandemic, we learned that the value of local shops and local businesses. There's never been a better time to spend locally and actually invest in these. I think it's only right and proper that we learn by our success there in trying to get multi-departments working together to say a can-do council. I'm very pleased to be part of that group that actually did make it a can-do. It makes the difference of surviving. I use one example of one business, I wouldn't mention names, but one business in Mumbles alone actually told me that he employs 16 staff, and without that facility outside, he would not have been able to continue as a business, and then 16 jobs would have gone. So it's not only about retaining jobs, it's about investing, hopefully get small businesses to grow, to get people back into work locally. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity for us as a council to stimulate and lead on this particular issue. So very proud and thank you, Leader, for your efforts in doing so. Look forward to hopefully reaping the benefits locally.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hopkins. And I'm not aware of any other council at the moment who has established a recovery fund in the way that we have. So it is a unique local measure that we are taking here. So thank you for those comments and for the report being formally seconded. Mr. Evans has launched the vote. So if I could ask you to cast your votes, please.
Has anybody not received the poll? Have you all had an opportunity to cast your vote? I shall close the poll now. Sorry about the delay. I can see that's unanimous for.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Evans. That's carried. So we now have the exclusion of the public report. The legal officers laid out the reasons for that. Could I ask you all to show if you agree?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. And in that case, we'll go into private session. Mr. Evans, if you can halt the recording.